Hey everybody, this is Tech and Data Tips for business people. We're going to be appending datasets in a directory. If you have some datasets that are in a single directory, and each of those datasets have matching fields, and those fields are also in the same order, you can actually load an entire directory worth of datasets into Excel using Power Query. And you can have as many datasets as you want, as long as they have the same fields and those fields are in the same order. So for example, if you have a dataset that's coming out, and maybe it's based on a time period, and you want to combine it with data that's from the past, and those old datasets that have data from the past are in the directory already that you're kind of automating and pulling into Excel with Power Query, all you have to do is drop that new data set into the same directory and refresh, and it's going to update the whole data set. So for example, if you have 3 data sets here in CSV format that are in a single directory, and each of those CSV files have the same fields, and these fields are in the same order. Let's say you drop a 4th one, and it has the same fields and they're in the same order. If you hit refresh in Excel, it's going to update the whole data set with all the data from that 4th file. So to illustrate, we have these 2 files here somewhere on the computer. And what we want to do is append those 2 using Power Query in Excel. So what you want to do is go to Data, Get Data from File, from Folder. You click on the directory and say Open. Now, if you click Load instead of going into Transform Data, you're going to get something funny. So let's do that and see what happens. So what happens is, instead of pulling the data from both files, you're actually pulling in the metadata for those files. So it says, the name of the first file, the name of the second file, and then it has information about those 2 files. So that's not really what we want. So we need to actually transform the data. So we'll get rid of that query, and then we'll get rid of this sheet, and we'll try again. Go to Data, from File, from Folder, and you select the directory that has the 2 data sets. Now you want to click on Transform Data. Okay, and so we see that these 2 files are here. It's not obvious, but in order to get the data from both files and append them, you have to click on this little thing over here that's got 2 down arrows, and then there you'll be able to combine these 2. So you click on this, okay, and it's okay. And now you have these 2 files data that have been appended. You can tell because there's this extra column that they create that isn't part of those 2 data sets, but it's just a source name field that contains the name of each file that each row comes from. So we see that we have these 2 files that were both loaded, and they're both contained herein. So what we can do is close and load to. We can load to this particular worksheet, and we can also load to a data model. Okay. Now we see that they're both here in the sheet, and you can do whatever you want with it. Now to illustrate what would happen if you had a 3rd file, let's say you're at the end of the quarter and you have some new data that comes in. So what we can do is actually just pull in a third file. So now in the directory that we're pointing to in Power Query, we have a third file. Go back into Excel. You don't have to do anything else but just refresh. And then now you have the third file. And then you just keep doing this as time goes on and you have more files. And this kind of automates a lot of that process of combining data sets that have the same fields that are in the same order. So this can actually save a lot of time, and this is kind of like a continuation of what we talked about in a prior video about appending data sets. This method is better in some ways because you can just drop the files into a directory instead of going into Power Query and appending two files. Maybe you have more files that will come later. In that particular use case where you might have more files coming in, you pretty much know it's a certainty. This method of dropping those files into a single directory, and this can be on your computer or it can actually be a SharePoint directory where you can point to the SharePoint directory. This method might be actually very useful for that particular use case. So with that, thank you for watching and have a nice day.